In today's podcast, you'll learn how to make small talk, chit-chat, and casual conversation so that you'll know what to say next time you want to start and continue an informal conversation in English. Welcome to
Aprender Inglés with Reza and Craig.
I'm Reza.
And my name's Craig.
And with nearly 60 years of teaching between us, we'll help you improve your English and take it to the next level. You're all very welcome, especially if you're a new listener. Craig, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing? Have you done anything interesting recently?
Try a new chocolate biscuit at your house, as you know. Apart from that, not much. God, my life sounds pretty boring, doesn't it?
I can't even make small talk with you. It's so boring. God, it's impossible. You don't do anything. Now, we have touched on this topic, which means we've spoken about it briefly in the past, how to start a conversation and make small talk. That was back in November 2015. So go to inglespodcast.com/77. We've decided to revisit this topic. Of course, one very popular topic of conversation is the weather when it comes to small talk. And we spoke specifically about the weather back in episode 99. Go to inglespodcast.com/99 to check your weather vocabulary for your small talk conversations.
Yes, the challenging thing about small talk is that we have to go with the flow. We can't script it. We can't prepare anything in advance, like a presentation, for example. Small talk is spontaneous, so that's what makes it really difficult.
And I think one thing to remember about small talk is, as Rachel Greenwald says, your goal is to be interested, not interesting. So the first time you meet someone, you don't want the other person to go away from the conversation thinking that was a really bad conversation because I didn't really say anything. The other person was speaking endlessly, going on and on about themselves for 20 minutes. So be interested in the other person. Let your conversation partner go away from the conversation thinking that was a great conversation. And that was probably because you were asking a lot of questions. You were interested in what the other person had to say. So Reza, how can people get started with the conversation, make the first step? What is a good opener when it comes to small talk with a stranger?
Well, comment on the situation that you find yourself in. For example, if you're in a coffee shop, you could say, "This coffee shop has great coffee. It's a shame the music is so loud." Or imagine you've just been at a presentation. You could say, "That was a great presentation. What did you think?" So comment on the immediate situation.
Or you could notice something specific about the person and give a genuine compliment. For example, "I really love your shoes. Where did you get them?" Or "That's a great t-shirt." Or "I like your glasses, I like your earrings, I like your tattoo," etc. Anything you notice that you find attractive or interesting about the other person, comment on it, pay a compliment, and that will initiate and start the conversation.
I'm going to add a word of warning to that, though. Warning, though, perhaps, particularly if you're a man and you're complimenting a woman. Yeah, okay, but easy how you go there. Easy how you go. A man complimenting a woman, "Hey, I love your shoes. Where'd you get them?" Yes, that can send out messages that you might not wish to send out.
I've never said to a woman, "I love your shoes." That's not something I would say, but I have on many occasions said, "Oh, I really like your earrings," or "That's a nice necklace," something like that, or "I like the color of your blouse." I think there's nothing wrong in that. Nothing wrong at all. I don't think it could be taken negatively by any woman. Why would a woman object to being complimented on something?
I think some would. Clearly, I have no right to give a definitive verdict on whether they would not, because I'm not a woman. But I have a feeling that in this day and age, some women would be bothered by that.
Well, it's interesting. What do you think? If you're listening to this and you're agreeing with me or with Reza, maybe you agree with one of us, or maybe you're somewhere in the middle. Let us know. You can reach us. We'll give you the contact details at the end of the podcast, but we'd be really interested to know which side you're falling on, which side of the fence you're falling on with that. Do women like to be complimented on what they're wearing?
By
not?
men that they don't know very well?
Yeah. By someone you've just been introduced to. Imagine you're out for a meal or you're at a conference and you're introduced to a man, and suddenly the man says, "Oh yeah, hi, I'm Craig. Nice to meet you. By the way, those are really nice earrings."
By the way, I'm going to say something which is going to turn the tables now and make me look really sexist. From me kind of trying to look really PC, politically correct.
Woke.
It looks like I'm going to go the other direction now, and I can't resist
The other direction.
Yeah, in the other direction. I can't resist this little joke, but I'm basing it on fact as well. With a woman who is an intimate friend or girlfriend or whatever of yours, woe betide you. That means be careful if you don't compliment them from time to time. Have I put my foot in it now? But that's a completely different story. You would better compliment them from time to time. Your girlfriend, your wife, your mum, whatever. But for strangers, quite different.
Especially if they're wearing a new dress or they've just had their hair cut. It's nice to pay the compliment, isn't it? So another thing you can do is to ask for some general information, or maybe ask for a recommendation. For example, you could say, "Excuse me, do you know what time it is?" Asking the time. These days, most people have a mobile phone, but maybe yours isn't with you, or you need to know the time, or when's the next presentation starting if you're at a conference. So just breaking the ice by saying something like, "Have you tried the new restaurant nearby?" Or, "Do you know where I can get a good lunch around here?" Or, "Excuse me, do you live around here? I'm looking for a decent pub. I'm looking for a nice pub." Anything like that, asking for information, asking for advice, could give you a springboard, which is a good start to holding a small talk conversation. So we've started our conversation. Now, how do we keep it going? Well, one way to kind of stop the conversation immediately is to ask a yes or no question. Is this your first time here? Yes. Or no. Do you like the food? Yes. Or no. I mean, you can ask that as a first question, but what you really should be going for are open-ended questions. And they tend to be questions that start with what or how or why. For example, is this your first conference? Yes. Well, how did you get here? Did you drive? Did you fly? How did you get here? What do you think of the food? What do you think of the presentation so far? What do you think of the hotel? Or why did you decide to become a teacher or an accountant or a nurse? By the way, why did you decide to become a teacher?
To see the world.
Really?
Yeah. To be able to live in another country and maybe travel a bit. That's the main reason.
That's why you've been in Spain for 25 years. Stuck in one place. Yeah. But you did travel, though, initially.
Yes. I've been in 3 regions of Spain and Germany and Turkey before that. But yeah, I got stuck in the same place eventually.
So can you see how that gave me a much wider, longer answer, and many things that Reza said I could expand on, like, which areas did you stay in Spain? Why did you decide to move from one to the other? So then you can develop the conversation from there. There's also a method called the FORD method that I recently discovered, FORD. It's an acronym. And here are 4 areas that are not too controversial. They're areas that you can speak about without getting into trouble. We're not talking about religion or sex or politics here. What's the first one, Reza? The F word.
Well, I again beg to differ. I think you could get into trouble with the very first one. F is for family. And Craig suggests, you notice I'm putting a disclaimer in here immediately. Craig suggests you say, do you have kids? Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know if I would go straight in with that. These days, you can get into trouble.
Maybe not straight in, but I think it's a question you definitely could ask somebody you first met at some point in the conversation. That's my opinion.
Yeah. So first of all, you get it started, and then if it seems to be going well, to keep it going, you could do. I must admit, maybe it's me being a sexist, but I'd be far happier to ask a man than a woman about that. because the man can't misconstrue it in any way. To misconstrue is to come to the wrong conclusion. If I ask a man, oh, yeah, family man, got any kids? Whereas if I ask a woman, it might seem like I'm stereotyping, presuming that she'll have kids, implying that she should have kids,
I don't know. I think this might be one of the first occasions in a long time that we've actually disagreed on something, because normally we are completely in agreement with things. I think one of the problems these days with wokeism and the fact that we're afraid to say anything that might possibly offend somebody, well, asking them if they have kids or children, I think is quite a neutral question. I think it's just been ambushed by the extreme left. And we're afraid to say anything these days because we don't want to even... Well, then what do we speak about? The colour of the walls? There has to be some conversation that... And I think it's from the place. Where is it coming from? Is it coming from a bad place, that question? Is it coming from a place that, well, if you don't have kids, you're not married, maybe we could get together? Or is it just an inquisitive question because I'd like to know more about you? So I think it depends on the place the question is coming from and not the question itself. I think we've got to disagree on this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd just rather not play with fire. I'd rather play safe. But once I build up a rapport, which is going to be much later with that person, then I would ask. But quite a lot of time in the conversation would have to go by before I would be tempted to ask that, I have to say.
Interesting. Well, who do you agree with? Do you agree with Reza or do you agree with me? Please let us know. So the O in this acronym FORD is occupation, which I think is quite a neutral. Do you agree, Reza? Quite a neutral topic?
I would go straight in with O. I would start with O. So for me, it would be ORD, or maybe ORDF, O-R-D, and then F at the end, the family after the other three.
So O is occupation. What do you do? What do you do for a living? Quite a basic question. I'm sure you know that. Can be quite boring. What do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a teacher. Oh, well, that could maybe end the conversation. But if you follow that up and ask a follow-up question, like, for example, are you working on anything exciting at the moment? What interests you the most about what you're doing currently? Something the person's excited about in their profession, something they're looking forward to in the near future, to get them speaking more fluently and give you more information. And of course, very important to say that you're not firing one question after another. This isn't an interrogation. You don't want the person to feel they've got a strong spotlight in their eyes and they're being grilled and questioned by some regime. You have to give some information back as well. So you need to give some information from you so that the person feels a bit comfortable. It's an exchange of information. It's not one-sided.
After speaking about occupation or around about the same time, it might be good to ask about letter R, recreation. So you could ask, what do you do for fun? What do you do in your spare time? Or read any good books lately? Or have you seen any good films? Or something like that. There are surely questions which can't cause any offense, I would imagine.
And then, as Reza said earlier, when you have built up that rapport and you're feeling more comfortable with the person, you can get into more slightly abstract areas and topics like dreams or ambitions. For example, is there anything new you'd like to learn in the future? Or what are you excited about at the moment? What projects are you working on? How do you see the next month or two evolving in your profession, in your job, or in your life in general? So to talk more about plans and ambitions for the future is another area. So that's one way to look at ice-breaking conversations, the FORD method.
Another thing to bear in mind is that it's very important to balance talking and listening, the two directions of any conversation. Some people say that you should aim for a 2-to-3 ratio. In other words, listen more, talk less. So 2 would be the talking and 3 would be the listening. Yeah, 2-to-3. Your talking is 1/3, whereas your listening is 2/3 of the conversation. And that way you avoid making it an interrogation. There's a speaker who often appears in TED Talks and places like that called Celeste Headley, and she talks about the idea of listen to understand, not to reply.
Yeah, a lot of my students would have watched her wonderful presentation on TED, Celeste Headley. So one of the things she says about having a successful conversation is don't jump too quickly to say something. Sometimes people are afraid of the pause. They don't like silence. Silence becomes uncomfortable, and they're thinking about what to say while the other person is still speaking. So what she suggests, and I agree with, is don't be afraid to just sit with what the person has said. Listen very carefully before you reply and you say something. Just let that silence be there and make sure that what you're going to say next is a thoughtful question, not to offend, obviously, and something that would continue the conversation forward. Also, what you can do is to paraphrase very briefly what the person has just said. So this gives two advantages. First of all, you're clarifying to make sure you've understood what the person said. And secondly, it does give you some time to think what you're going to say in reply. Let's do an example, Reza. There's a short conversation here. Imagine that we're at a conference and you want to speak with me and you're starting the conversation, you're breaking the ice. What's the first thing you might say?
Is this your first year at the conference, or have you been before?
No, it's my second year. I mean, I got so much out of the conference last year that I couldn't wait to come back again and meet some new people in the industry. What about you?
Oh, so you came last year and really got a lot out of it. No, this is my first time. How does last year compare with what you've seen so far?
Okay, so that's a good example of Reza paraphrasing, repeating in different words what I said, and then continuing the conversation with giving some information about himself. It's his first time, and then continuing with another question to keep the conversation flowing, to keep the conversation going. And there's a super tip that you can use, which is 3 words, very simple: tell me more. So, for example, if I'm speaking to Reza, we've only just met, this is our first conversation, and I can use that little expression or those 3 words, tell me more, to extend the conversation and keep it going. So let's practice, Reza.
I really enjoyed last year's conference.
Did you? Tell me more.
I found the last presentation really interesting.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's great. Tell me more.
The food has really improved here since they changed the chef. She's added some excellent fish dishes to the menu.
Really? Tell me more.
It's a shame you missed the last meeting. We did some brainstorming on how to improve sales and attract more customers.
That sounds interesting. Tell me more. So you're asking for more information, you're encouraging the person to speak, and that will lead to a longer conversation. Let's take a quick break here because I know you listen to this podcast to take your English to the next level. But what about your speaking? Is your fluency improving? Are you happy with your speaking skills? My conversation course focuses on making you a more confident and more fluent English speaker. You'll join me and a small group of motivated students, and we'll meet on Zoom and have topical discussions, role plays, debates, and presentations that will expand your vocabulary and help you express yourself effectively in English. So be proactive and take the first step towards becoming a confident and fluent English speaker. Send me an email today to craig@inglespodcast.com and I'll send you details of the next online conversation course. Thanks for listening. Now let's get back to the podcast.
It's not just a question of what you say, it's also how you move, your body language. Be aware of your body language. I guess this is the same in most cultures, but perhaps not all. You should, when you speak English at least, maintain eye contact when you're in small talk. Nod, that means move your head up and down. And put away your phone, your smartphone, of course, to show that you're fully present. Don't, what was the word? Thumb someone?
Fubbing.
Yeah, don't thub
Don't
the person.
fub.
Means you're kind of listening to, oh, yeah, sir, oh, sir, what did you say? Because you're looking at your phone. Don't do that, obviously. Look interested.
Fubbing was a word that we looked at a couple of weeks, 3 weeks ago, I think, when we spoke about new words that have recently been introduced in the language. Fubbing, P-H-U-B-I-N-G, was it? Fubbing, using your phone to stop people speaking to you. And going back to what Reza just said, that nodding, yes, I do that very often. But as that person we referenced before, Celeste Headley, says in her talk, you don't really need to fake listening if you're actually listening. So it's not necessarily essential to nod if you're really paying attention to what the person is saying. But I think it does help. It helps to lubricate the conversation if the other person knows that you're nodding along and you're agreeing or listening to what they're saying.
I must admit, maybe I'm a bit oversensitive. I think I probably am. I don't know. I certainly am sensitive. Oversensitive means you take it too far, but I get really bothered when I make an effort to listen to someone and I clearly show that I'm listening through my questions. In other words, going through the process which we've just described, and it seems to make no difference to that person. I'm the sort of person, because I'm a bit oversensitive, that I will soon end the conversation. I'll get out of it. I can't be bothered to go on if it's clear that I'm making a big effort by asking really pertinent questions according to what the person says, and they just expect me to keep questioning them. After about a minute and a half, I'm out of there. If they're not going to ask me anything, I can't be bothered to keep it going.
I'm not too sure what you mean, though.
I get bothered if me being a good listener isn't appreciated. It bothers me.
But how do you know it's not being appreciated?
I give them about a minute and a half, 2 minutes to ask me a question, maybe.
Ah, right.
And if they don't, I admit I'm out of there. I'm not the most patient guy on earth. So I'm more than happy to be the first one to do all the chasing, let's say, and the questioning. Yeah, for a couple of minutes, but not for 10 minutes. I'm not patient enough to hang on. I think, well, clearly this person doesn't have that much interest in me, so I'll end the conversation now. But that's just me. I'm a bit impatient that way.
Got it. Yeah. No, I understand what you mean. So if the person's not asking you questions and volunteering information, maybe, then you cut it short and you leave.
Yeah.
Speaking of leaving and ending the conversation, I think it's a good idea that you signal that you're going to leave. Let's see if you agree with this, Reza. Because you can just say to someone, oh, well, excuse me, I'm going to the toilet. Or, excuse me, I'm going to get a drink. You could abruptly end the conversation. Or you could signal that the conversation is coming to a close by saying, well, I'm sorry, I need to go in a moment. But before I go, tell me more about your trip to Paris. Or do you have a business card I can take with me? Or how can I reach you? How can I get in contact with you? Or before I go, just tell me how long you're staying here. Or before I go, can we grab a coffee tomorrow? Can we continue this conversation? So just to let them know that the conversation's coming to a close, I think just helps. Would you agree with that?
That's a very important thing. Yeah, very important aspect to do.
And when you finally leave, you could say, it's been really nice meeting you, or it's been really lovely talking to you, or it's been wonderful getting to know you, something like that. All of these expressions are in the show notes at inglespodcast.com/606.
So now it's your turn to practice your English. When was the last time you had small talk with a stranger? Tell us what happened. How did it go and how did you feel?
Yeah, Reza, it's been really good talking to you today. I have to go as well. But before I do go, let's give the listeners a challenge, the Small Talk Challenge. We challenge you to speak to one stranger every day for a week. So go out there and meet 7 new people and then tell us about your experience. Now, some people like Reza are wonderful conversationalists, and Reza does it really naturally. I've seen him in action many times. He has a way with people, and he's a lovely conversationalist. Me, on the other hand, I need to work at it, and I need to get these little tips and these little things to help me have good conversations when I meet people for the first time. And you can also improve if you put some of these tips into practice and go out there and meet people.
Can I say I think Craig has been a bit hard on himself. I've always found him to be a very natural conversationalist, not just with me, but with other people. I think you're being very critical of yourself. I think you're better than you think.
But how do you know it's not something I've learned?
Well, if you've learned it, you've learned it well. The main thing is the result, right?
Yeah, true. I think it's probably a combination of the two, but I do find it very interesting, this whole idea of meeting people and body language and having a good rapport with someone. So I am interested in this area. Now, if you'd like to tell us how you have done your small talk challenge, or just tell us about the last time you had a small talk conversation in English with someone, then you can reach us on SpeakPipe and send us a voice message, which we will include in a future podcast. And to do that, you need to go to speakpipe.com. That's speakpipe.com/Ingles podcast. Or simply go to the website inglespodcast.com and you'll see the link in the show notes. What about email, Reza?
You could write, if you prefer, to either of us. So you have the choice of Craig@inglespodcast.com or belfastreza@gmail.com. Actually, no, not either. Both, if you like, as well. It's up to you, either or both of us.
Yeah, write to both of us. We'd like to hear from you. And if you're a Spanish speaker and you want to improve your English with free and paid resources, why not visit the Mansion Ingles website at mansioningles.com. And for paid products, you can browse the online store at store.mansioningles.net.
As always, we'd like to say thank you very much to all our Patreon supporters. That's Patreon. And on the Patreon program, people donate a little bit of money to the podcast. And as a way of saying thank you, we give those sponsors access to the audio transcriptions. And also, as an added bonus, the chance to sign up for a live Zoom chat to further practice their speaking. If you're interested, have a look at the show notes. There's a link. It's patreon.com/Ingles podcast.
And we can't mention everybody who's supporting us. There are just too many of you lovely people. But we will say thank you very much to Sara Fernandez, who has been our latest Patreon supporter. Thank you, Sara, and to everyone who is supporting us. So we hope this podcast has helped you with your small talk conversations. It's a shame we don't know any teacher, Reza, who has a conversation course that might help people do this.
I know some guy. Was that guy from Essex? What's his name? Oh, yes, Craig. Or Greg, as he's often mispronounced.
Or Craig.
Or Craig.
Or Greg. In next week's episode, next Sunday, we're going to talk... Well, what are we going to talk about next week, Reza?
Oh, well, we're going to the opposite end of the spectrum. Today it was small talk, but next week is Chivalry Dead. Oh, so we're getting straight into a very controversial topic. Far, far, far away from talking about the weather. It can get you into trouble talking about chivalry, but as you know, Craig and I like getting ourselves into trouble.
Yes, and don't forget to let us know who you agree with about offending people that Reza and I disagreed on in this podcast. So, is chivalry dead? What is chivalry and does it still exist? We'll examine that next week. Until then, have a lovely week ahead. Thank you for listening. It's goodbye from Reza.
And it's bye-bye from Craig.
The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.